I'm here in Surfside, Florida. One of the biggest things about this area is that it's a pretty large Jewish community here. You know, even this liquor store right here. It's Big Daddy's liquor store. Quite a few restaurants over here. A lot of kosher stores, synagogues, and it's towards the evening now, and it's pretty interesting just watching this community. My first impression actually is impressive, seeing a community centered around certain belief system. You know, there's a clothing store there, and here's a Jewish restaurant where they sell kosher meals and what have you. You know, there's definitely money here. You can see the sky rises of the condos, and the beach is like 2 blocks over. It's pretty nice, pretty quiet, pretty reserved. And I'm not trying to make this video about religion or about Jews, non-Jews, whatever it is. I'm basically want to point out the fact that it's possible. The fact is you can build a community centered around a belief system or a common set of convictions or a common set of beliefs or a common set of understanding. You can do that, you know, and I think that's pretty powerful, that you can actually do it, and it can be successful. You know, now everybody in this town is not Jewish, right? Everybody in this town is not a Hasidic Jew or goes to the synagogue or observe the laws of Moses and stuff like that. But it doesn't seem to have a major impact on the Jewishness of this neighborhood or the community, you know. It's like, you know, you got T-Mobile, you got a barbershop, you got jewelry stores, and you have, Starbucks, but, they understand that this is a Jewish community and they cater to the community. I think that's powerful. So for those of you who are interested in building community, interested in carving out a piece of America, and, buying up 1,000 acres of land and creating a community, it's possible. For those of you who are interested in going to places like St. Louis, Chicago, Greensboro, North Carolina, places where the property value has dropped so much because of drugs and alcohol, and the property value is so low, and you have a couple of $1 million on you, or a couple of $100,000 on you, or you have an inner circle, you have a network of people who have money. You can come and you can create something like this. That's the point I want to share with you, is this stuff is possible. You can create a community that has a core set of values. There's a certain level of conservativeness, and there's also a certain level of wealth. And I strongly believe that if you want to have a healthy and a vibrant community, you definitely need to center around, that community needs to be centered around some core convictions, a common set of principles that are healthy. I think one of the reasons why, and I know I'm gonna get in some trouble with this, but hey, if you want to change the world, you have to be different. And I'm one of those people, I'm different, I think differently. I believe that in order to create I believe that one of the reasons why we see a lot of drama in the African American community, and I'm not saying this is for every African American community, okay? So don't crucify me. But in some of the areas where I've been, and I'm not going to name any places, I'm just going to let you all figure that out. But there's certain places, where there's African American communities, and there's just negative elements that we haven't cleaned up. It's basically like, like having like a family relative who just always doing something stupid and nobody puts him in check, or he's doing something stupid, but he's just strong enough to where he can like defend himself and fight off. So even if you try to stop him, he'll knock you out. Any of y'all ever have a family member like that? He's wrong, but he doesn't care. And if you were to come against him, he'll fight back and beat you up and almost be like he's just uncontrollable. Well, people like that, you can't build communities with people like that. You can't build communities with people like that. There's three things that it takes to build a strong community, probably 4. To really have a peaceful community. It's going to take a common set of values, and those values have to be healthy. It can't be centered around drugs and alcohol. It can't be centered around, the negative forms of hip hop. It can't be centered around lewd behavior. It can't be centered around lewd sexual behavior. It can't be centered around broken family syndromes. It can't be centered around like deadbeat dads or deadbeat moms or deadbeat kids. It can't be centered around those kind of things. It can't be centered around money-hungry preachers, because those people don't build communities. They actually destroy communities. They are more about building their empire, not necessarily building a healthy and vibrant community, right? It can't be centered around miseducation. It has to be centered around healthy information, positive information, information that's going to build people up and not tear them down. It also has to be built upon partnerships, right? And so I believe that there has to be a common set of values. I think so often we're trying to build community with people who don't share the same values. This is the reason why some people leave the hood, because the hood doesn't share the same value. This is why people move from one location to another, because oftentimes that location and where they're at, the citizens of that community do not share the same values that you may share. So it's like, hey, it's time to leave. If you are trying to, build a community around, homosexuality and lesbianism, and this is not, I'm not trying to I know I'm gonna get in trouble for that one. But basically, it's going to take a heterosexual man and a heterosexual female who have a good head on their shoulders. It's going to take the family unit. That's basically what I'm trying to say. It's going to take the family unit. If you want to build a vibrant and healthy community, it's going to take the family unit. You know what I mean? And two gay men can't create a family. Two lesbian women can't create a family. And I'm not going to say more on that. I'm just going to leave it at that. And don't crucify me, because if you believe in tolerance and all that stuff, then so be it. But I'm just saying, if you really want to build a healthy community, you can't do it without the family unit. And the family unit starts with mother and father. And that's what I see in this community, right? You could say whatever you want about Jewish people. You can even argue that they're not the real Jews. That's not even my argument, right? My argument is, when I look in this community, look, I see, boom, husbands and wives. I see families. That's my point. I can't even count how many times I see couples, married couples. I'm actually heading back to my hotel because I actually got my hair cut. Those y'all can see, I covered up some of the grays here. So I got it dyed so I could look nice and sexy for my woman. Not that I wasn't sexy before. I like the gray hair, but sometimes I don't want to go to Jamaica with a bunch of gray hair. My sister lives in Jamaica, by the way. And so I'm going to be going to hang out with her for 8 days. And my brother-in-law, and they're going to show me all around because I've never been to Jamaica. So this is going to be a pretty interesting time that we're going to have. But back to my point, this area, it's just like a huge Jewish community. Jewish stores, kosher stores, stuff like that. And all I'm simply trying to say, I actually want to encourage you. I'm not trying to make this really a conversation about Jews or non-Jews, more so about the fact that you can create a community that is centered around a core belief, a core conviction, shared interest. And I think sometimes America tries to be all things to all people. And that's the reason why I have to smile when I see neighborhoods like this, because they're like, hey, America is all things to all people, but if we want to thrive as a people, if we want to thrive as a community, or if we want to thrive as a group of families, we need to carve out a part in America that fosters and that supports our way of thinking. Now, we have to be wise about it. We have to do it within the confines, within the limitations of American law. We have to do it legally, but we have to do it for the success of our people. Because you got to remember, America is not a nation. America is a continent. It's not a nation. Even for those of you who read the Bible, right? Biblically, the word nation simply means a man's descendants. That's all it is. It's just the descendants of a man and a woman. And so when you look at that, America is basically a continent, right? Which is made up of multiple nations. And these multiple nations, guess what? They have different faiths, different belief systems, different convictions, different ways of life, different languages, you know, and, you know, they're all coming to America and trying to figure out how to get what they call, you know, how to get like, you know, what we call the American dream. You know, so many people want the American dream. They just don't necessarily want the American ideology, so to speak. It's like, we want the American dream, we want peace, we want liberty, you know, the pursuit of happiness and all that good stuff. We just don't necessarily want to buy into, maybe I shouldn't use the word American ideology. Maybe that's not the right word. I think we want to be successful in America. We want to have the house, the car, the health, you know, the vacations. We just don't want to be influenced by all the other nations that exist in America. We don't want to be negatively influenced by all of the other nations that are in America. I think that's really what people are saying and thinking, and this is the reason why we have, you know, Jewish communities. Right? This is why we have Italian communities. I was speaking to the barber and he says further down this road, there's a Russian community, right? And so for all you African Americans, Hispanics, whatever your belief system is, whatever your way of life is, you know, you take note, you know? And on a positive, you know, I speak more on a positive sense because me being a Christian, you know, and being someone who wants to live righteously, you know, I find that attractive. You know, to be able to live in a community where, you know, there's a common belief, there's a common, you know, there's a common way of living, there's a common upbringing. It doesn't mean we don't associate with people outside the community. The community is welcoming, but there's just a certain common belief. There's a certain way of life in this community, and people are free not to live among us, right? Like, that's the whole thing. If you don't want to live here, you don't have to. First of all, you got to be able to afford to live here, right? Because these houses ain't cheap. You know what I mean? These condos and stuff ain't cheap. You know, there's a new saying that I've read online. It says, instead of leaving the hood, what we want to do is we want to buy up the hood and clean it up, right? And I think that is a great mission for 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, and for the next 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, is to buy up the hood. Literally, because the hood is on sale right now, and the prices are very, very low, right? And we can do something just like this. Look at this. You can build the same thing, you know? All you have to do is establish a common foundation, a common belief. You got to establish a common set of values. We have to look at history and we got to see, wait a second, you know, having lewd behavior doesn't work. You know, not mastering science and technology doesn't work, right? Who's going to build these tall buildings, right? Who's going to build these condominiums? You're going to have to know some science and technology. Who's going to be the architect for the town halls, and who's going to build the gymnasiums and the stadiums and the bridges and you know, who's going to build this stuff? When you talk about building a community, we ain't just talking about having a Bible study. We're not talking about just reading a book, and we definitely ain't talking about just marching and quoting Marcus Garvey. We're talking about being able to build a building just like that. We're talking about understanding how to take care of the earth and beautify the area with palm trees or trees of that particular area. We're talking about, you know, having a task force, police department, who's able to, you know, keep the peace. We're talking about providing powerful education schools that can educate our young people and get them from this position of stupidity and ignorance and you know, what is it, like just laziness or being complacent or not giving 110%. You know, we have to be able to, I'm heading inside my hotel because it's raining now. We have to be able to move beyond that, and we have to create schools that's going to educate these young kids. They don't know about that. You know, they want nice things, but they don't know how to create nice things. You know, they want to stay in hotels like this. My question is, can you build hotels like this? Can you manage hotels like this? That's what I'm talking about, is can you build places like this? Can you maintain it? Can you protect it? It's going to require a lot of work, and you got to do more than just know how to dance. You can't just be somebody who know how to dance and somebody who know the latest slang. That ain't gonna do nothing. That's just a form of entertainment. But if you want to build wealth and you want to build community, then one, you need to start studying communities. You need to start going to different places and looking at how communities are built, how they're created, how are they funded, how does taxes work with this and all that. You got to figure out how to play this game. You know what I mean? And so that's my little talk. Again, I just want to encourage you. Communities can be built, and they can be built even around religious ideologies, and they can even be successful. They say most revolutions are started by the younger generation. And so I'm hoping that you younger generations will see this video, watch this video, and catch a hold to it and begin to dream and to say, hey, this is possible. We don't have to keep going to other neighborhoods to experience beautiful hotels. We all don't have the same gifts and abilities, and we all bring something different to the table, right? My question is, what are you bringing to the table? When are we going to bring hotels to the table? We need to build schools. We need to build hospitals. We need to build banks. We need to build manufacturing facilities. We need to build bridges. We need to build automobiles. We need to build weapons. But all I'm saying is, it's possible. I don't know how to do it exactly and how to complete it, but I think we need to start forming a think tank. I think we need to start, we need to start building neighborhoods. We literally need to start building cities. Seriously, we need to, there needs to be some kind of thing where we buy 10,000 acres of land and build a neighborhood, build a little small city, and let that be a starting point. Let it be an example, right? We like Black Wall Street, that could be built again. Let's build it, all right? Let's do it. My name is Samuel Genus with Predict Your Business. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.